The galaxy was old. Very old. 12 great species had ruled it for thousands of years. They called themselves the Galactic Council, and they believed they were wise. They believed they were fair. They believed they were gods. Then they met humans. 30 years ago, a small human ship had wandered into council space. The aliens looked at these strange creatures with their soft skin and short lives. They laughed. Humans were weak. Humans were emotional. Humans cried when they were sad and smiled when they were happy. What kind of species showed their feelings so openly? The council decided that humans were primitive, like children who had just learned to walk among giants. But the humans were polite. They asked for nothing except friendship. They wanted to learn. They wanted to explore. The council found this amusing, so they gave humanity a gift, a small moon called Kora 7, far from anything important. It was a mining colony, a place to dig rocks from the ground. The council thought this would keep the humans busy and quiet. For 30 years, it worked. 6,000 humans lived on Kora 7. They were miners and engineers, doctors and teachers. They built homes in the cold mountains. They raised families. They planted gardens that grew earth flowers in alien soil. It was not a rich place, but it was their place. They were proud of what they had built. Park Woojin was the governor of Kora 7. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had come to the colony as a young miner and had worked his way up through hard labor and honest words. The people trusted him because he never lied to them. When times were hard, he said times were hard. When times were good, he shared the joy with everyone. Woojin had a problem. The council wanted the minerals under Kora 7. They wanted them for free. A Vesan admiral named Yuri had sent a message demanding that humans surrender all mining rights. No payment. No negotiation. Just give it to us because we are stronger. Woojin sat in his small office and read the message 3 times. Then he wrote his reply. The people of Kora 7 worked for what we have. We will not give it away. If you wish to trade fairly, we welcome you. If you wish to take by force, we will remember that you are not the friends you claim to be. He sent the message and went home to his wife. He knew what might come next, but he could not betray his people. A leader who sells his people for safety is no leader at all. Admiral Yuri received the reply on his flagship. He was a tall creature with scales like polished metal and eyes like black stones. He had conquered 17 worlds. He had burned cities and broken armies. No one said no to Admiral Yuri. A human had said no. Yuri did not feel anger. He felt something colder. He felt the need to teach a lesson. These primitive creatures needed to understand their place in the galaxy. They needed to learn that the Council's word was law. If they would not learn through words, they would learn through fire. He gave the order. 12 Vesan warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel above Kora 7. They did not send a warning. They did not ask for surrender. They simply aimed their weapons at the colony below and fired. Linari was a teacher. She was 28 years old, with a kind face and a gentle voice. She had come to Kora 7 because she believed children everywhere deserved a good education. Her classroom had 42 students, ages 6 to 12. That morning, she was teaching them a song about Earth, a planet most of them had never seen. Blue oceans and green trees, the children sang. Mountains touching the sky. Earth is far, but Earth is home, beneath the stars so high. Nari smiled as she listened to their voices. She thought about her own childhood. Singing the same song in a classroom. In Bizen, some things connected people across the stars. Then the ceiling turned to fire. The orbital bombardment lasted 11 minutes. That was all it took to kill 6,000 people. The bombs fell like rain, turning buildings to dust and people to ash. The mountains that humans had carved their homes into collapsed. The gardens with earth flowers burned. The schools, the hospitals, the markets, the homes, everything was destroyed. Governor Park Woo-jin died in his office. Still sitting at his desk, Lee Nari died holding as many children as she could reach, trying to shield them with her body. It did not matter. Nothing could shield anyone from that kind of fire. In 11 minutes, Kora 7 became a grave. Admiral Yuri watched the destruction from his ship. He felt satisfied. The lesson had been taught. He recorded a message and sent it to the Galactic Council, along with video of the bombardment. "The human problem on Kora 7 has been solved," he announced. "Let this serve as a reminder to all primitive species. The Council's will is absolute." The Council received the message during their regular meeting. 12 species, 12 leaders, sitting in a great chamber made of crystal and light. They watched the video of Kora 7 burning. They saw the bombs falling on homes. They heard the screams that the recording had captured before the transmitters died. Some of them nodded in approval. Humans had been getting too confident lately. This would put them in their place. Some of them said nothing. They were not happy, but they were not brave enough to speak against Yuri. Only one voice rose in the chamber. Councillor Thren of the Morvaki species stood slowly. He was old, even by alien standards, with skin like dried leather and eyes that had seen too much. "This was wrong," he said quietly. "Those were civilians, children. This was not justice. This was murder." Admiral Yuri turned his cold eyes toward Thren. "It was necessary. The humans needed to learn. And what have we taught them?" Thren asked. "That we are monsters? That we kill children to make a point. What do you think they will do now?" Yuri laughed. "What can they do? They are weak. They will cry and mourn and accept their place. That is what weak species do." The council voted. 11 species supported Yuri's action. Only Thren voted against. The matter was closed. 3 days later, Earth received the transmission. President Kang Myra stood in a room full of generals and advisors. She was a small woman with silver hair and eyes like steel. She had led humanity for 12 years through peace and quiet growth. Now she watched the video of Kora 7, the fire, the destruction, the death. The room was silent except for the sound of someone crying in the corner. When the video ended, Myra stood perfectly still for a long moment. Then she turned to face the cameras that would broadcast her words to every human in the galaxy. "We have received the Council's message," she said. Her voice was calm, too calm. "Earth will now deliberate." She walked out of the room. The broadcast ended, and then silence. The galaxy waited for humanity to respond. They waited for angry words, for crying, for begging. They waited for the weak species to ask for peace, to promise they would behave, to accept their place at the bottom of the galactic order. Instead, they got nothing. 1 week after Kora 7, every human communication relay around the Sol system went dark. The signals just stopped. Ships approaching Earth's solar system found the wall of satellites blocking all transmissions. Nothing went in. Nothing came out. The entire human homeworld had wrapped itself in silence like a blanket. The council thought this was funny at first. Admiral Yuri laughed loudest of all. "They are hiding," he told the council, "like animals crawling into a hole. They are afraid. They are grieving. Give them time, and they will come crawling back, begging for forgiveness." Many in the council agreed. This was normal behavior for a primitive species. Humans were emotional creatures. They needed time to process their feelings before they could think clearly again. Soon they would realize that fighting the council was impossible, and they would return to being good, quiet servants. But Councillor Thren could not shake his worry. He sat in his quarters and thought about the human president's words. "Earth will deliberate, not Earth will mourn." Not Earth will grieve. Deliberate. That was a word for planning, for deciding, for choosing a path forward. What were they planning? 2 weeks after Kora 7, strange reports began to arrive. A human ambassador on the Vesan homeworld had quietly packed her things and left on a transport ship. She had told no one she was leaving. A human engineer working on a space station in the Morvaki system had resigned without explanation and vanished. Human scientists at a council research center had erased all their work from the computers and disappeared in the night, across the galaxy. In every system where humans lived or worked, the same thing was happening. They were leaving. All of them. Every single human outside the Sol system was going home. It happened so quietly that no one noticed at first. By the time the council realized what was happening, it was too late. The last human transport ship entered the Sol system and disappeared behind the wall of silence. There were no more humans in council space. Not one. Admiral Yuri began to feel something he had not felt in a very long time. It took him a while to recognize it because it was so unfamiliar. It was fear. Inside the silent wall, Earth was not grieving. Earth was working. President Kang Myra had given the order on the same day she made her broadcast. Every factory on Earth and its colonies would switch to military production. Every scientist would focus on weapons research. Every able citizen would contribute to the effort. There would be no rest, no holidays, no breaks. Humanity had 6 months to prepare for war. General Baek Junho was in charge of the military buildup. He was a serious man in his 50s, with a face that rarely smiled. He had spent his career preparing for a war he hoped would never come. Now it was coming, and he was ready. "We cannot match them in numbers," he told his officers in a bunker beneath Sol. "The Council has millions of ships. We have thousands. But numbers are not everything. We will be smarter. We will be faster. We will be more willing to sacrifice. They think we are weak because we feel emotions. We will show them that our emotions make us strong." Across Earth, factories that once made cars now made warships. Laboratories that once studied medicine now designed weapons. Schools taught children how to hide in shelters while their parents worked 20-hour shifts. Everyone understood what was at stake. Everyone had seen the video of Kora 7. Everyone knew someone who had died there. The anger was quiet but deep. It was the kind of anger that does not burn hot and fast. It was the kind of anger that burns slow and forever. In a research facility beneath the mountains of Gangwon Province, a woman named Choi Hannah worked on something terrible. Hannah was 35 years old. She had been a physicist before Kora 7, studying stars and energy. Now she was building a weapon. Her team called it the Prometheus engine. It could reach across space and destabilize a star, making it expand and burn everything around it. It was the most destructive weapon humans had ever created. Some of her colleagues asked if this was right. Were they not becoming the same monsters they wanted to fight? Hannah kept a photograph on her desk. It showed Lee Nari and her classroom of 42 children, taken 1 week before the attack. Hannah's niece had been in that class. 7 years old, with a bright smile and dreams of becoming an astronaut. "They burned our children," Hannah said. "They laughed while they did it. I do not care about being right anymore. I care about making sure they can never do it again." She worked 18 hours a day. She barely slept. She finished the Prometheus engine 3 weeks ahead of schedule. Meanwhile, something else was happening. Something the Council would not discover until it was too late. While Earth built weapons, it also gathered information. Human spies had been living in Council space for 30 years. They had made friends with aliens. They had worked in their governments, their militaries, their research centers. They had learned secrets. Now those spies sent everything they knew back to Earth before disappearing into the silence. Military bases, hidden weapons, emergency plans, secret bunkers. The locations of every important council facility across the galaxy dot by the time the Wall of Silence fell. Earth knew more about the council than the council knew about itself. Back in the council chamber, Councilor Thren finally convinced some leaders to take the human silence seriously. A scout fleet was sent to investigate the Sol system. 10 ships, the best sensors in the galaxy. They approached the wall of satellites and tried to scan past it. They could see nothing. The jamming was too strong. They moved closer. Then, from the darkness, human defense platforms opened fire. 9 ships were destroyed in seconds. 1 escaped with heavy damage, limping back to council space with a terrifying report. "They are not hiding," the captain gasped before dying of his wounds. "They are waiting. 6 months of silence. 6 months of building. 6 months of planning. When the silence finally broke, the galaxy would learn what humans could do when they were angry. They would learn what humans could do when they had nothing left to lose. They would learn that the weak species they had laughed at was not weak at all. It was patient, and its patience was running out. On the first day of the 7th month since Kora 7, the silence ended. It started as a small signal, barely noticeable among the countless transmissions flowing through the galaxy. But within seconds, it grew stronger. It pushed aside other signals. It forced its way into every communication device, every screen, every speaker on every world in council space. The face of President Kang Myra appeared before billions of aliens who had never seen a human face before. Her silver hair was pulled back tightly. Her eyes were cold and clear. She did not look like a leader of a weak species. She looked like something far more dangerous. She looked like someone who had made peace with death. "To the Galactic Council," she began. Her voice was steady, without emotion. "6 months ago, you murdered 6,000 of our people. You burned our children while they sang songs about their home. You destroyed a colony of innocent civilians because we would not bow to your greed." Across the galaxy, aliens stopped what they were doing to watch. In the council chamber, Admiral Yuri stared at the screen with growing anger. How dare this human interrupt their day? How dare she speak to them like equals? "You expected us to cry," Myra continued. "You expected us to beg. You expected us to accept our place as slaves to your empire. You were wrong about us. You have always been wrong about us." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We gave you 6 months. 6 months to return our dead, which was impossible. 6 months to offer justice, which you never considered. 6 months to find your conscience, which you do not have. Instead of remorse, you sent laughter. Instead of apology, you sent arrogance. You celebrated the death of our children as a victory." Councilor Thren sat in his seat with his head in his hands. He had warned them. He had told them this would happen. No one had listened. "Now we give you something you did not give our people on Kora 7, Myra said. "We give you mercy. We give you warning. We give you a chance to save lives, a chance you denied to Linari and her 42 students, to Governor Park Woojin, to 6,000 souls who only wanted to live in peace." Her image was replaced by a list, coordinates, hundreds of them. Names of places appeared beside the numbers. Veshan Military Command, Council Emergency Bunker 7, Hidden Weapons Facility on the moon of Draka, Secret Research Stations, Classified Bases, the most protected secrets of the Galactic Council, displayed for everyone to see. Admiral Yuri's blood went cold. Those locations were known only to the highest commanders. How did the humans know? "These are your military installations," Myra's voice continued as the list scrolled. "Your hidden bases. Your emergency shelters. We know where they all are. We have known for years. While you laughed at us, while you called us primitive, our people were watching. learning, waiting. The list ended. Myra's face returned. You have 24 hours. Evacuate your civilian populations from military zones. Remove your families from command centers. Take your children away from the places where soldiers stand. After 24 hours, there will be no more words between us. There will only be fire. She leaned closer to the camera, and for the first time, something showed in her eyes. Not anger, not hatred, something deeper and sadder. You think we want this war? We do not. We wanted peace. We wanted friendship. We wanted to explore the stars beside you, not fight you. But you taught us that peace is only possible when both sides respect each other. You do not respect us. You see us as animals to be slaughtered when we become inconvenient. Her voice hardened. So now we will teach you respect. We will teach you that human life has value. We will teach you that our children are not acceptable losses in your political games. We will write this lesson in fire across your worlds until you understand it. And if you do not learn, then we will keep teaching until there is no one left to teach. The transmission ended. The screens across the galaxy went dark dot in the council chamber. Chaos erupted. This is a bluff. Admiral Yuri shouted. They cannot possibly threaten us. We have the largest fleet in the galaxy. They knew our secret locations. Another council member replied, his voice shaking. Every single one. How? How is that possible? 30 years, Councillor Thren said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. We let them live among us for 30 years. We thought they were harmless, so we ignored them. They worked in our governments. They served on our ships. They studied in our universities. And the whole time, they were watching. Admiral Yuri slammed his fist on the table. Then we attack now. We destroy them before they can strike. Attack what? Thren asked. We cannot see past their wall of satellites. We do not know what they have built. The scout fleet we sent was destroyed in seconds. Do you want to send more ships into the darkness? The council argued through the night. Some wanted to attack immediately. Some wanted to surrender. Some wanted to evacuate as the humans demanded. No one could agree. 20-4 hours passed. On the human flagship Remembrance, Admiral Yun Taiwu stood on the bridge and watched the final seconds count down. He was 60 years old, with a face carved from stone and eyes that had seen too much pain. His daughter had died on Kora 7. She had been 8 years old. Around him, his crew waited in silence. They had trained for this moment. They had prepared for this moment. Now the moment had arrived. All ships, Taiwu said into his communicator. The warning period has ended. Engage fold space drives. We jump in 30 seconds. In the darkness of space, 3,000 human warships powered up their engines. They were smaller than council ships, but faster and more advanced. They carried weapons the galaxy had never seen. And they carried crews who had nothing left to lose. 20 seconds. In the engine room, technicians made final checks. In the weapons bays, soldiers loaded missiles and charged cannons. In the medical areas, doctors prepared for the wounded they knew would come. 10 seconds. Admiral Taiwu looked at a small photograph attached to his command chair. His daughter smiled back at him, frozen forever in happiness. I am sorry I could not protect you, he whispered. But I will make sure you did not die for nothing. 5 seconds. The crew of the Remembrance stood at attention. They knew that many of them would not survive the coming battle. They did not care. They were fighting for something larger than themselves. They were fighting for their species. They were fighting for their children, the ones who had died and the ones who would live. 3,000 ships vanished from the Sol system in a flash of light. When they reappeared, they were at the doorstep of the Vesan Empire. The fire had begun. The Vesian Empire had ruled the stars for 3,000 years. Their fleet was the largest in the galaxy. Their warriors were feared on every world. They had never lost a war. In 9 hours. Everything changed. Admiral Yuri stood on his command ship and watched the human fleet emerge from fold space. He counted the ships once, then twice, unable to believe his eyes. 3,000 vessels. It was impossible. 6 months ago, humans had barely 500 warships. Where had they found the resources? Where had they found the technology? All ships, attack formation, he commanded. Destroy these insects. The Vesian fleet moved forward. 9,000 ships against 3,000. The math was simple. The humans would be crushed, but war is not math. The first human ships to engage were small, fast vessels that darted through the Vesian formation like fish swimming through water. They did not fight fairly. They aimed for engines and weapon systems, crippling ships instead of destroying them. Vesian commanders screamed in frustration as their mighty warships drifted helplessly, unable to fight back. Then the larger human ships arrived. Admiral Taiwu commanded the battle from the Remembrance, watching tactical displays that showed thousands of moving lights. Each light was a ship. Each ship was filled with lives. Focus fire on their command vessels, he ordered. Cut off the head, and the body will stumble. Human weapons were different from anything the Vesians had seen. They were faster, more accurate, and more powerful. Vesian shields that had withstood attacks from every species in the galaxy flickered and failed under human assault. Ships that had seemed invincible exploded in flashes of light, but the humans paid a price for every victory. A destroyer named Bright Star was surrounded by enemy ships and fought until its last gun went silent. Its captain, a woman named Oyuna, refused to surrender. She aimed her crippled ship at the nearest Vesian cruiser and activated full engines. Both ships died together. A frigate named Soul's Pride lost its main weapons in the first hour of battle. Instead of retreating, its crew loaded explosive charges into shuttles and flew them directly into enemy vessels. They knew they would not survive. They flew anyway. Again and again, human ships did the unthinkable. They sacrificed themselves to save their comrades. They charged into certain death to damage the enemy. They fought with a fury that terrified Vesian commanders who had never faced an enemy that simply refused to stop. "They are insane," a Vesian captain transmitted before his ship was torn apart. "They feel no fear. They welcome death." He was wrong. The humans felt fear. They felt it deep in their hearts. But they had learned something the Vesians had never understood. Fear can be fuel. Fear for your family, fear for your home, fear for your children. These things can make an ordinary person into a warrior. The humans were not fighting for conquest. They were not fighting for glory. They were fighting because 6,000 of their people had been murdered, and the universe had shrugged. 5 hours into the battle, the Vesian fleet began to break. Ships retreated without orders. Commanders screamed at their crews to hold the line, but crews that had never tasted defeat suddenly knew what it felt like to lose. Panic spread like fire through dry grass. Admiral Yuri watched his empire crumbling. Half his fleet was destroyed or disabled. The humans showed no sign of stopping. They pushed forward with cold determination, their formation never breaking, their attack never slowing. "Send message to the Vesian homeworld," Yuri ordered. "Request immediate reinforcement." His communication officer looked up with fear in his eyes. "Admiral, the humans have destroyed our relay stations. We cannot reach the homeworld." Yuri felt his world spinning. For the first time in his life, he understood what it meant to be helpless. By the 9th hour, the battle was over. The great Vesian fleet, pride of the Council, was scattered wreckage floating in space. Admiral Yuri's command ship had been captured. He sat in chains in a human holding cell. unable to understand how everything had gone so wrong. But the humans were not finished. Admiral Taiwu stood on the bridge of the Remembrance and received a report from the Weapons Division. The Prometheus engine was ready. They had reached the Vesan star system. Vesa Prime, homeworld of the Empire, hung in space below them, beautiful world of blue oceans and white clouds. 12 billion people lived on that world. Taiwu closed his eyes. He thought about his daughter. He thought about Kora 7. He thought about 6,000 people who had died for nothing, except alien greed. Open communication channel to Vesa Prime, he ordered. The face of the Vesan planetary governor appeared on screen. The alien was terrified, his scales pale with fear. Please, the governor begged. We have civilians, children. We surrender. We will give you anything. Taiwu stared at him. When Governor Park Wojin asked for mercy, what did you give him? The governor said nothing. When Lee Nari held her students and prayed for their lives, did Admiral Yuri hesitate? Silence. You have 12 hours to evacuate your population from Vesa Prime. After that, your sun will begin to expand. Everything within range will burn. Taiwu paused. We are giving you what you did not give us. We are giving you time. Use it wisely. Weapons Officer Msuji stood at her console with her finger over the Prometheus engine controls. She was 29 years old, the youngest officer on the ship. Her hands were steady, but her heart was heavy. Admiral, she said quietly, are we really going to do this? Taiwu walked over to stand beside her. On her console screen, the image of Vesa Prime rotated slowly, cities glittering, clouds swirling, life continuing as it had for thousands of years. We are going to damage their star, he said. Not destroy their world. They will have time to escape. Most of them will survive, but some will not. Taiwu was silent for a long moment. No, some will not. Just as some of ours did not. He put his hand on her shoulder. I hate this, Suji. I hate what we have become. But if we do nothing, they will do this to us again. And again. Until there are no humans left. The only language they understand is strength. So we must be strong. Suji nodded slowly. I understand, Admiral. 12 hours passed. Evacuation ships fled from Vesa Prime in endless streams. Billions of people crammed into transports, carrying nothing but their lives. Children cried for toys left behind. Families were separated in the chaos. The proud Vesan people became refugees in a single day. When the time came, Admiral Yuri was brought to the bridge. Taiwu wanted him to watch. How many children were in Lee Nari's classroom? Taiwu asked. Yuri stared at him with hatred. I do not know. They were just humans. 42, Suji said quietly. Her finger pressed the control. The Prometheus engine fired. The Vesan sun shuddered. Its surface began to ripple and expand. Within days, it would grow large enough to swallow the inner planets. Vesa Prime would burn. Most of the population escaped. 90% made it to safety. But millions did not. Millions who could not reach evacuation ships, who lived too far from spaceports, who were too old or too sick to travel. The humans did not celebrate. There was no cheering on the Remembrance. Suji went to her quarters and cried for an hour. Taiwu stood alone on the bridge, watching the dying star, knowing that he had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. But in the silence of space, a message spread across the galaxy. Humans could not be conquered without cost. Humans would fight. Humans would sacrifice. And if pushed too far, humans would burn worlds. The fire had spoken. Now the ashes would listen. The war lasted 14 months. It was the bloodiest conflict the galaxy had ever seen. After the fall of Vesa Prime, the human fleet did not stop. They moved from system to system, targeting military bases and council strongholds. They did not conquer. They did not occupy. They simply destroyed the ability of the council to wage war and then moved on. 9 of the 12 elder species surrendered within the first year. Their leaders signed treaties aboard human warships, their hands shaking as they wrote their names. They agreed to pay reparations for Kora 7. They agreed to recognize human territory. They agreed to disband the military alliance that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. 2 species refused to surrender and fought until their fleets were reduced to scattered survivors fleeing through space. They became refugees, wandering from system to system, begging for shelter from the species they had once ruled. The Vesan Empire collapsed completely. Admiral Yuri was tried for war crimes aboard the Remembrance. The trial lasted 3 days. He offered no defense. He simply sat in silence as images of Kora 7 played on screens around him. Children singing, families eating dinner, normal people living normal lives in the seconds before his bombs fell. He was found guilty. The sentence was exiled to a small asteroid with enough supplies to survive for 50 years. Alone, with nothing but the memory of what he had done. Some said this was too merciful. Some said it was too cruel. Admiral Taiwu said it was justice. Death would be too quick for him. Let him live with his choices. But humanity did not seek revenge beyond the battlefield. This surprised everyone, including the humans themselves. President Kang Myra addressed the galaxy as the war ended. She was older now, her face lined with exhaustion and sorrow. She had led her people through the worst conflict in their history. She had ordered attacks that killed millions. She had not slept peacefully in over a year. The war is over, she said. We have won. We have proven that humanity cannot be ignored, cannot be dismissed, cannot be murdered without consequence. But victory brings responsibility. We must now decide what kind of species we want to be. She paused, gathering her thoughts. We could conquer. The galaxy is weak, and we are strong. We could rule as the Council ruled, taking what we want because no one can stop us. Some of our people want this. They say we have earned it through blood and sacrifice. Across human space, people watched in silence. But that is not who we are. We did not fight this war to become emperors. We fought because our children were murdered, and no one cared. We fought because the galaxy believed that some lives matter more than others. We fought to prove that human life has value. Her voice grew stronger. If we become conquerors, we prove them right about us. We prove that strength is all that matters. That the powerful may do what they wish to the weak. We become the monsters we fought against. Our children did not die for that. The people of Kora 7 did not die for that. She straightened her shoulders. Instead, we will rebuild. We will create a new order, not an empire with humanity at the top, but a true community of equal species. We will welcome former enemies as partners. We will share our technology, our knowledge, our culture. We will prove that humanity's greatest strength is not our weapons, but our ability to forgive, to grow. The galaxy listened in disbelief. They had expected slavery. They had expected revenge. They had not expected mercy. On the ruins of Kora 7, a memorial was built. It was a ring of black stone orbiting the dead moon, carved with 6,000 names. Every name was written in both human script and the languages of all 12 elder species, so that no one could claim ignorance of what had been lost. Part of the peace treaty required every alien leader to visit the memorial before any diplomatic meeting with humanity. They floated in small ships past the endless names, reading the ages beside them. Park Woojin, 58, Linari, 28, and then the children hundreds of names with single-digit numbers beside them. Many alien leaders wept when they saw it. Some had not believed that aliens could cry. The new Galactic Assembly met for the first time 1 year after the war ended. Humanity held no special position. They had one vote, like everyone else. But when President Myra spoke, everyone listened. "We are here to build something better," she said. "Something that could not exist under the old council. A community based on respect, not fear, on cooperation, not domination. It will not be easy. We have hurt each other deeply, but if we do not try, then all our suffering means nothing." The assembly voted to adopt a charter of rights. All species would be protected. All lives would have value. No government could attack civilians without facing judgment from the community. It was not perfect, no law is perfect, but it was a beginning. General Big Junho retired after the war. He had led humanity's military to victory, but he took no joy in it. He spent his remaining years teaching at a military academy, telling young officers about the cost of war. "We won," he would tell them. "But winning is not the same as being right. We killed millions to avenge thousands. Was it worth it? I do not know. I will never know. All I know is that I hope you never have to make the choices I made." Choi Hana, the woman who built the Prometheus engine, destroyed all her research after the war. She wanted no one to ever build such a weapon again. She returned to studying stars peacefully, but she never forgot what she had created. Sometimes, late at night, she looked at the photograph of her niece and wondered if the little girl would have approved of what Hannah had done in her name. Admiral Yoon Tai-woo visited the Kora 7 memorial on the anniversary of the attack every year until he died. He would float in silence before the name of his daughter, telling her about the life he had lived since her death. He never remarried. He never had other children. He said he had given everything he had to the war, and there was nothing left to give. Councillor Thren of the Mervaki lived longer than most of his species. He became the first alien ambassador to permanently reside on Earth in the city of Bison. He learned to speak Korean. He ate human food. He made friends with humans who did not blame him for what his government had done. On his last day, very old and very tired, he asked to speak with General Junho one more time. They sat together. In a small garden, two old soldiers who had once been enemies. "I'm sorry," Thren said. "I should have done more. I should have stopped them." Junho was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he took Thren's hand. "You tried," Junho said. "That is more than most did. And you spent your last years building peace. That matters. The past cannot be changed, but the future is still being written." Thren smiled weakly. "Do you think they will remember us, our peoples? Do you think they will remember the lessons of this war?" Junho looked up at the sky, where human and alien ships flew together toward the stars. "I hope so," he said. "But even if they forget, the memorial will remind them. And if they make the same mistakes, they will learn the same lessons." He squeezed Thren's hand. "Humanity is dangerous when provoked, but we are also capable of forgiveness. The galaxy learned the first lesson. Now they must learn the second." The sun set over Bison. Two old men sat in silence, watching the stars appear one by one. The war was over. The silence had been broken. The fire had burned itself out. Now came the hardest part of all learning to live together in peace. But humanity had always been good at hard things. It was what made them human.